This is You've Already Been Hacked, recorded on 19 June 2026. Welcome back to You've Already Been Hacked. This week, Cowboy, once again, we're going to be hitting, I would say, high nines. High nines.
Like it.
And one that definitely reverberated across the interwebs. But before we get there, how was your week?
My week was a roller coaster of a week, but my youngest digital clone did graduate pre-K,
Ooh.
to which was uh, the most over-the-top graduation ceremony I've ever seen. I'm like, it's pre-K. What are we doing?
Oh my
But
God.
tried to have fun. He had fun, and that's really at the end of the day all that matters, right? So I would say that that was the highlight. Today was a little bit of a Debbie Downer. So, but here we are. Um, my, my arguably favorite part of the work week
Oh.
is getting to do this podcast with you.
Well, thanks,
So,
buddy. I appreciate that. Um,
how was your week?
my week was it was full is the way I'll describe it. Lots happened this week. None of it that's really worthy of the internet sphere's attention span. So let's just say the professor is tired. The professor is looking forward to Father's Day weekend and making sure everyone else in this house wades on him hand and foot because dads get one
Good.
weekend a year. That's it. That's our time. So I'm gonna
That's it.
fully exploit that for all it's worth. But
100%.
talking about potential exploitation, let's get to our top story. The Korean telecom giant at the center of Anthropic's Mythos controversy. The Trump administration imposed export controls on Anthropic's most advanced AI models this past week. Those, for those that don't know, and Cowboy, I'm not sure if you do, are called Mythos and Fable. This came after concerns emerged about South Korean telecom giant SK Telecom's access to Claude Mythos. The White House ordered Anthropic to revoke SK Telecom's access over alleged ties to China. Amazon researchers subsequently identified vulnerabilities in Fable 5 and safeguarded versions of Mythos, claiming it was possible to circumvent safety guardrails and access AI cyber capabilities. The confluence of events led the White House to determine that they could not trust Anthropic to safeguard its most advanced AI technology. On the 9th of June, Anthropic launched both Fable and Mythos, and days later, was within like 2 days, I think, maybe three, maybe it was a week. I'm not sure. I don't remember right now. It happened really fast. The U.S. government ordered an export control directive suspending all foreign national access to both models, whether those foreign nationals were inside or outside the United States. This was interesting to me because I had heard the Amazon part, and I had heard that the jailbreak was a 3-word jailbreak, which was fix this code, and that's it. So take that for what
Yes.
it's worth. There was apparently a very good Wall Street Journal article that came out this past week about it. If you have access to Wall Street Journal, highly recommend going to take a read on that. This mattered because this government action on AI export controls sets a precedent affecting every organization deploying frontier AI models. The SK Telecom China connection raises questions about the supply chain risk in AI partnership, the potential for guardrail bypass vulnerabilities in quote safe AI wrappers means organizations cannot assume safety by default. And first, this is the first time the US government has directly forced a major AI company to restrict model access. Expect more regulatory interventions ahead. So, what could or should you be doing if your organization is using frontier model access? I wouldn't have even be concerned so much about the fact of the restrictions on Fable and Mythos. That's its own can of worms. Well, your organization should be reviewing your AI model access policies and verify who has access to frontier models and whether export controls could apply in the future. Just looking at your risk calculus. You should be auditing third-party AI partnerships for geopolitical risk exposure. Do not assume guardrailed AI models are impervious to bypass. Test and monitor those outputs, and monitor for updated export control regulations affecting AI technology use. Cowboy?
Didn't want to interrupt you. I am familiar with Mythos and Fable, and I agree for government work, it was very quickly implemented. But we've talked about the failing of AR guardrails multiple times over the last couple months, and so I think this makes sense. I mean, the the United States has a lot of export controls on various things for good reason, and this is clearly, I think, falling into those categories, even at what I think is still like the early stages of some of these really advanced models coming out and what they can do. And so,
Can I devil's advocate you on that?
yeah,
I
absolutely
disagree. And here's why I disagree.
interesting. Okay,
There's so many open weight models right now that are available that maybe not are at what potentially Mythos or Fable could do, but are fully capable of doing way more horrible things because there are no guardrails in place. And because they're open weight, anybody with the hardware to run them can run them. So does this really solve anything?
I think it does because I think you can, and I don't obviously have the super detailed technical information on all the different AI models out there, right? But it's sort of like you can there's enough public information out there. I'm going to go back to my kind of weapons analogy of like there's plenty of information out there to make like a dumb bomb, right? But
Be
we don't
careful with the
just say,
words
well, they
because
can,
YouTube might stop the video.
things that go boom, and uh, we still have tight export controls on things that can make things go boom much more accurately, right? So just because there's AI out there that could make things go boom, if you will, um, I I don't think it means we should like lock down the heavy duty stuff, if you will, with that
I
sense.
understand,
So
and I think I think it's a fair analogy. My concern is I don't think that this is all just because of export control. I think that has the potential to have some political motivation behind it. And that's just me tea leaving, knowing that Anthropic has already told the US government they were not interested in the US government weaponizing their models.
sure.
So
And I
I
didn't go that deep in my analogy, right? Like I kept it more higher level. You're going deeper into the iceberg, which is okay. Think you're 100% correct there as well. Uh,
I won't go too deep into that, but I think that
it's
I, I think this is multifaceted. I think that
mhm,
there is the potential for concerns around the risk, which is fine. I think that Anthropic's response was well crafted, so that's interesting. I think that a three-word prompt where you ask a model to fix code doesn't necessarily make it a threat, but I could be wrong. I don't know what code they were asking him to fix. So, there's always that possibility. I think that there's just some variables here that don't make that feel like it was a clean decision. Now, I had not heard before researching this uh, SK Telecom connection. That's interesting. So I think that there's a concern there with China getting access to the model, if that is the case. But again, many of the open weight models are already coming out of China, and they are quite good. So I think also this is a Pandora's box sort of thing where this is not going to stop anyone that wants the capability that Mythos or Fable offered. This is just going to delay. And I don't know if the delay is going to be long enough if it is a safety concern with how fast these systems are being increased in capability at this point. That's where I kind of sit like there's a lot of stuff going on here. It's just not, I just don't think it's clean. And I think that this risk might be overblown for reasons that aren't risk related. And there's my soapbox for tonight.
I mean, what comes out of the federal government clean
Well,
anymore? I think at least they're getting after it pretty quick and recognize it.
sure,
We've
I agree.
seen, massive time failures to act
No,
in the
this was
past.
very quick.
So,
This was very quick.
um,
So yeah.
yeah, I just, as always, I'm hoping it's being done for the right reasons as much as possible, and we'll see what shakes out. I'm glad I'm not having to make these decisions. That's for sure.
Agree.
These things would
Very,
keep
very.
me up at night.
You know, I worked in organizations that were responsible for um, these type of risk decisions. Um, and the thing is, if you're gonna make that recommendation to someone that's gonna order that decision, you better know your homework and have done it right. Right. That's what I'll say about that without getting into specifics. Is I don't know anymore where the line is on what I used to do with that, and it's not been 50 years, so I should be really careful about the declassification. That might not be mine to declassify. So yeah, you better just make sure you're spot on with your reasoning and rationale, because it could come back to bite you individually, if that ever comes to light. So just food for thought. But rather than beat that dead horse, let's move on to our next story. Microsoft Defender zero-day Rogue Planet. Microsoft has confirmed a zero-day vulnerability in its own Defender antivirus engine, codenamed Rogue Planet. Oh, this is only a 7.8. I'm sorry.
I know.
CVE
I was
2026
sitting on
50,
it, brother, but
50 65 6. The flaw was publicly disclosed by independent security researcher Nightmare Eclipse during the June patch Tuesday. So that just sort of happened. The vulnerability allows, like last week, I think, the vulnerability allows an attacker with low-level access to escalate to full system privileges on fully patched Windows systems by exploiting the various security products supposed to protect them. I think we covered this as part of a suite of things he kind of released at the same time. Um, this matters because antivirus engines become an attack vector, so it's a defense in depth nightmare. Your malware can now, not your malware, any malware can reach disk that can reach the disk, can potentially use Rogue Planet's escalation to system. So Rogue Planet is not just the problem. If it's there, anything else that can reach it is now a compounded problem. The fact that the code is public means that threat actors are already likely using it or testing it at a minimum, and organizations rely solely on Defender face an elevated risk until a patch ships. Cowboy?
yeah. So this is actually another acceptable reason why it's not a higher level is because you have to have local access to the machine. Um, Either by sitting on the keyboard, you can SSH in to gain access that way, but um, you have that attack vector, the access, but you also have to trick a legitimate user into opening a malicious attachment. So it's a two-pronged attack vector, which makes it a little bit more difficult to execute. Um, it does take advantage of a race condition that grants you shell with system level privileges, but because you have to have that interaction, um, it's I think that's why the score is a little bit lower, but it is rated high against the CIA triad of the information, and so it's one of those things where yeah, it's bad because you get shell with system, right? Which we've reminded our listeners that that is as high as you can get on a Windows box. But you still got to have that physical or SSH access plus a user tricked. So there's some steps to overcome, but you you never want to have a flaw in your defender.
Whichever
In your
one it
defense
is,
mechanism.
in this case, it's Microsoft Defender. So this is
Yeah.
terrible. Um, yeah, I feel like we've definitely talked about what was this guy's name? Not Rogue Planet. We've talked about Nightmare Eclipse
Okay.
before. I'm not sure if we talked about Rogue Planet before. It feels familiar to me, but maybe things are
Well,
also blurry.
it is because, and it's chaotic eclipse, um, but that's because it's related, if you will, to Blue Hammer, Undefend, and Red Sun, which we've definitely covered.
Yeah,
This is just the fourth vulnerability within Defender from Chaotic Eclipse that have been out. The other three are patched, but I don't believe Rogue Planet is yet.
wonderful. Well, be careful out there,
So,
everybody, if you got Microsoft Defender on your systems. But again,
which-
physical access necessary for now.
right.
That's what I would say. Like, someone could find a novel area, so it's still something to be concerned with. Not to throw Microsoft under the bus, but in our next story, Russian state-sponsored threat actor group APT28, also known as Fancy Bear or Frost Blizzard, depending on what organization you're looking at the angle from, weaponized a critical Microsoft Office zero-day vulnerability. This would be CVE 2026-21509 within 24 hours of public disclosure. The campaign targeted Ukrainian government agencies and EU institutions using malicious Word documents that deployed the Covenant post-exploitation framework. The attack chain uses COM hijacking, disguised DLLs, and scheduled task persistence. Command and control traffic is routed through fillin.io, which is a legitimate cloud storage service. That's unfortunate for them, making malicious network traffic appear as normal cloud activity. The reason this matters is that the fact that APT28 weaponized it within 24 hours means that organizations cannot rely completely on public disclosure timelines. Living off the land techniques and legitimate cloud services for C2 make this extremely difficult to detect. It's no surprise that a Russian state-sponsored threat group would be targeting Ukraine and the EU, but this shows that there is ongoing state-sponsored cyber warfare with political spillover to Western orgs. And COM hijacking combined with scheduled task persistence is resilient against most endpoint detection systems. So, what should you do about this? Well, there is an emergency fix out there for 21509. So, immediately across all of your Office environments, this should be implemented and updated. Apply registry mitigations outlined in Microsoft's advisory, block and or monitor outbound connections to fillin.io's infrastructure, review cert UA IOC lists, alert on scheduled tasks named OneDrive Health, all one word, file named eh or storeshell.dll or splashscreen.png, monitor for COM and CLSID registry modifications as an indicator of COM hijacking attempts. Cowboy?
Yeah. So, as someone who appreciates the offensive aspect of things purely from just a tradecraft standpoint. And I always love the Russian names like Fancy Bear because the Russian bear, so scary. Um, but APT28, they've been around since at least 2004.
Long
These
time.
are some of the best of the best. Like these are top notch cyber warriors attributed to the Russia's General Staff, Main Intelligence Directorate, 85th Main Special Service Center. Uh, they brought you the attack against Hillary Clinton and the DNC back in
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
2016. World Doping Agency stuff, chemical weapon stuff, all over the map, right? They are very, very good at what they do. And yeah, to have the disclosure and then you're actively exploiting it, you know what I mean, within 24 hours is we're seeing that left of the bang coming and coming and coming, right? Moving faster. I don't think you talked about the one of the documents that they discovered was interesting. It was titled "Consultation Topics Ukraine Final,"
Oh,
which
interesting.
I thought the final in there was a nice touch because
Right.
that's kind of you don't really see that a lot, but like you'll see the current as of or a final or something in main stuff. So that's good. But it masqueraded as materials related to the Committee of Permanent Representatives of the EU who are consultating on Ukraine's situation. So not only did they take advantage of it fast, they got documents that look legit coming out that are relevant to the situation that again you're busy, you're looking at stuff, you know what I mean, it's very easy to get swept up in work and accidentally click something even to the best of us. So
Yeah.
um I certainly would not want to be targeted by these folks.
No, definitely not. Like you said, they've been around a long time. They have been around longer than my Intel career. I started in Intel in '05. So, um, take that for what that's worth, folks. That's a long time to be doing to have that level of institutional expertise. Um,
You are old.
Thank you. I
You're
needed that.
welcome.
I really did. I'm gonna go get a hydro worm now and just logic bomb myself. Um, okay.
Singles in your area. I want to talk to you now.
Wow. Okay, so here you go, Cowboy. This one's for you. In our next
All right.
story, CISA has identified a critical vulnerability in Splunk Enterprise. This is CVE 2026-2253 with a CVSS score of 9.8.
Finally.
Yeah, there you go. You can breathe easy. To its known exploit vulnerabilities catalog with a remediation deadline of June 21st, 2026. So still 2 days from now. Under binding operational directive 2604, giving organizations just 2 days to comply. The flaw affects the post GRE SQL sidecar service within Splunk Enterprise, which lacks
Mm,
authentication entirely, allowing unauthenticated remote attacks to execute arbitrary code via the copy from program SQL command. This matters because Splunk is in a lot of places. I was going to say everywhere, but that might be a little too facetious. There is competing products out there, but it's it's definitely out there, and it's definitely inside government sphere for sure. This is your sim. Compromising it gives attackers blind operation and near impunity. CBS score of 9.8 with zero authentication required means any Internet Explorer Splunk instance is a sitting duck. CISA's KV listing plus its POD 2604 means federal agencies have to get on it and fix it. Good luck, especially with the 21st being a Sunday. So, to all those IT and defenders out there that are going to be working overtime this weekend, good luck to you. I'm sure it's not going to be fun. The Postgres SQL sidecar is a component many admins didn't even know existed. So, what can or should you be doing about this right now? Well, inventory all Splunk Enterprise instances immediately and check versions of whether you have a Postgres SQL port exposed. Apply Splunk's vendor patch immediately. This is not a schedule it one, especially if you're in government. It's not a schedule it one if you're not in government, but the government's got a directive against itself. So take that for what it's worth. If you cannot patch before the 21st, block external access to the sidecar port at the firewall. Review logs for unusual file creation and deletion activity targeting that SQL endpoint. And if it's internet exposed, assume compromise and begin your forensic triage. Cowboy?
Oh, yikes. Here we another vulnerability in the defender, right, if you will. I don't pretend to be a big fan of Splunk. They do great work and great things. Uh, not a fan for various reasons, but sidecars are typically, for those that don't know, it is a way for a endpoint to sit usually outside of like a cloud instance where they can't necessarily get direct access to the app that might be running. So it kind of sits in that sidecar and able to pull log and statistics and other information to pull back right for into to, and ingest into the system. So and a lot of that, especially in the commercial world, it tends to be public facing because they want their people to be able to log in remotely or even from on site wherever they are to do their work. So, yay, 9.8, but yikes, zero authentication always makes me shudder. Um, it is
Yeah.
an amazing topic, I say about 10,000 times in regards to space vehicles, right? Uh, and so uh, implicit trust that exists within anything in today's cyber world is a scary thing and should scare you. And we have to move away from that implicit trust because it just makes it too easy.
100% agree with you on that. And that it's frustrating, right? Because the balance point is just trying to keep all those authentication mechanisms correct and up to date. And like there's a real friction point there for those that have to maintain systems, for sure. But at the
It
same
is.
time, you can't leave it open anymore. You never should have in the first place, but you really can't anymore because anything that's especially if it's internet facing. If it's not internet facing, I'm not going to say a 9.8 is not bad, but again, it would end up being a pivot point as opposed to the access point, which you
Right.
can place your valuation on that if you want to.
Yes. Yeah. There's even a simple, some type of authentication has to take
Yeah,
place. But
sure.
again, especially if it's internet facing,
Especially.
like eh, eh, that is just a must
Yeah.
at this point in
Yes.
our cyber lives. Absolute must. Do it.
Well said. In our last story, I didn't even know they were still around. You ready for this? The Eastman Kodak Company. I thought they went bankrupt. I thought they were gone.
I thought they were
Confirmed in
gone.
its investigation a security breach after the ShinyHunters extortion group claimed responsibility. ShinyHunters named Kodak on their leak site on June 15th, claiming to have obtained over 2.2 million records containing customer PII and internal corporate data. Kodak is the largest high profile victim in ShinyHunters' ongoing campaign exploiting CVE 2026 35 273, which was, for those that don't remember, the Oracle PeopleSoft zero-day vulnerability. CISA added the vulnerability to its KV catalog on the 12th, with a remediation deadline of the 15th, which has already passed. So I guess they got in there on Kodak, but I don't know if Kodak has any government contracts at all anymore. Again, I'm shocked to even hear their name right now, but glad they're still kicking. This matters. If your organization uses Oracle's PeopleSoft, it's still potentially in the crosshairs. And I know we talked about this. This is we were talking about how they were going after educational institutions the last time
Hmm.
this came up. Um, Shiny Hunters has used a dual threat approach, which is data leak plus digital problems, which raises the stakes beyond simple extortion. And 2.2 million records of customer PII is a significant regulatory exposure. So one would ask, is that just the cost of doing business? What should you do about this? Well, if you still haven't patched your Oracle PeopleSoft, you should do that immediately because we're now 7 days away from when this was publicly disclosed. Review your CISA KV catalog compliance. Federal contractors are already non-compliant if you have not patched by the 15th, which was 4 days ago. You should be monitoring ShinyHunters leak site for new targets to assess whether your industry is in scope. It sounds like they're going after anybody. And prepare incident response playbooks for dual threat extortion scenarios. If possible, and it is appropriate, not if possible and appropriate, it is appropriate. Do not pay ransom demands. Reach out to your local FBI field office if you're in the States and follow their guidance and focus on containment. Cowboy?
Yeah. It, it's no different than kidnapping gangs whose sole business model is kidnapping because people pay and it's lucrative. And we got to take that approach no matter how hard it makes your company's life. We can't make it profitable, which we've talked about numerous times, and just how profitable it is. It makes us question our good guy side that we sit on sometimes. But I did. I googled it while you're talking because I thought the same thing. They did file for bankruptcy in 2012. They came back much smaller and really focused in their business. But clearly, 2.2 million records. They clearly still have a lot of customers. So welcome back, I guess. A little late, but while this was part of the Shiny Hunters uh, current Oracle campaign, officially we don't know how they gained entry into Kodak systems.
Right.
We don't know officially if it was this. It's just happening during this large scale campaign that they're doing, but irregardless how they got in, right? They got in and they got access and exfiltrated it. So they did all they needed to do, uh, which makes me feel bad for Kodak because I don't know. There's like a weird nostalgic soft spot. For some reason, I can see the yellow cameras, the throwaways, right, and the packages and stuff. Like it's 80s and 90s time for me, but
And you're
um,
calling me old.
I know. I am. Well, we are of the same age, so we were both
Well,
old.
you can have your film cameras. I'm good with my digitals.
Like,
What else you got for us tonight, Cowboy?
all right. Nothing ruins a SOC analyst evening quite like discovering the problem is the thing that's supposed to solve the problem. Because Rogue Planet is where the antivirus and malware finally decided to get an apartment together. So congratulations, malware and antivirus, on coming together. I am the Cyber Cowboy. Stay frosty, everybody.
And I'm the professor of CyberRisk. That's all the news for this week, and we'll talk again soon. If you like this podcast, share it with your colleagues and friends. Your support is how we are able to continue to make this content. Thank you.